This program is brought to you by Connie Dodo of Connie Dodo Realty Group, 119 Pleasant Street, Methuen. When you want results, don't make a move without us.
Welcome to Dodo Real Estate View. I'd like to thank the viewers for your topics that you have presented us so we can inform the consumers of different things that you'd like to hear about. You always want to know what's fiction, what's fact, so this is important. And I'd also like to thank you for your questions that you have that we present at the end of the show. One of the topics that people have asked for is to have a financial planner come here, and we have Bridget Grella from Grella Financial Services. Thank you, Bridget, for coming.
Thank you for having me, Connie. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, it's great. I know Bridget has been in the industry for 12 years.
Yes.
And you've worked for the same company
yes.
for 12 years, which is great. I know with financial planners, there's a lot of different things that I don't know. You've educated me and other people have educated me on them, but I know there's a lot of different licenses and so forth that come with your industry. If you could maybe just briefly talk about that, because I don't think a lot of people are aware of that.
Sure, absolutely. When you start in the industry, there's different series licenses that are required. And FINRA and the NASD oversee them. So, for example,
I'm going to stop you right there. What's NSAD?
They're both federal organizations that are almost like the checks and balances of our industry. Mm-hmm. So they make sure that everyone that puts their awning out to the populace are educated and licensed properly. So for example, if you wanted to sell stocks, if you wanted to work with a particular advisor that was a stock trader, they need to have their Series 7 license. And if you wanted to trade mutual funds or life insurance or annuities, if you will, that requires a Series 7 and also an insurance license. And then there's Series 6, Series 63, and so on and so forth. There's many different licenses out there, but the basics are really your 6, your 63, your 7, and then your 65, which allows you to do actual asset allocation and investment advising for clients. So.
What's the purpose of a financial planner?
Well, you know, basically, we're a lot like a physical trainer. If you think about when we're out and about and January 1st, we all try to focus on diets, become more fit. Well, we go right to the gym. And when you walk into the gym, you see all these machines that are quite daunting. And I found myself always going to the treadmill and then to the elliptical, which I think is the spawn of Satan because there's so many things going on. I just didn't know how to use them properly. So I hired a personal trainer. And I learned so much more, and I got so much more out of the workout and in an efficient way. Well, also, my personal trainer helps me with diet and asks me, what have you done, this, that, puts you on the scale. Well, when you work with a financial advisor, they're going to do the same thing. A diet is a lot like a budget. Tell me what you're bringing in, and tell me what you're spending. And then we're going to see, and that's really the foundation for all planning. Because before we can invest, I need to know what your cash flow is. Because if you can't make a time commitment to your investment, we're really going to have a hard time with success. And that's true of everything, really. You've got to put your time into whatever your goal is. And financial planning and financial advising is a lot centered with what's your goal? What are your dreams? What keeps you up at night? And you start there and you make your attack that way.
You know, I think there's a lot of fiction, and I think we need to hear the facts on this, of do you have to have a lot of money to have a financial planner?
You know, that is a fantastic question. Because so often I'll be at an auction or I'll run into an old high school friend and they'll say, Bridge, as soon as I win the lottery, I'm coming to see you. Well, ironically, you really need a financial advisor all along the way. And I liken it to a hockey game. I happen to be a huge Bruins fan.
We know that.
Everybody knows that. And so in the first period of life, if you think about it, you need to protect your team because you may have newly become married and then you may have brought another baby, and a person into this world. Well, what if you step out the door and it's your last day on this earth? Well, it has nothing to do with investing, does it? But it has everything to do with protecting who you have on that ice. Well, that's life insurance. And then you're thinking about, how can I afford this? Because I remember when I was living in the first period, my babies were little. You're working, you're sleep deprived. Everything is optimized. And then maybe you're in your first home, but you're growing out of that first home. So you're considering maybe growing and buying a larger home. And so all of these things are going on. Cash flow is at a premium. So you're trying to make your cash go as far as it can. So insurance seems to be the last thing to worry about. But there are different opportunities and products out there that are cost effective, that still give you the same amount of coverage. And oh, guess what? Your medical always looks better when you're 20 or 30. You're still wearing that superhero cape. You think you're invincible, right?
Right.
So it's much cheaper to buy insurance when you're younger. Now you go to the second period of life and we turn 40-something. And 40-something sometimes unearths different medical issues. You never know. And then you're worried about educating the children. And it could be private high school. You could have had them at private elementary. But again, we just still always have to look at life insurance. We haven't even talked about investment yet. But then in that second period and also in the first, if you're working for a large corporation, don't underestimate the power of a 401k. Because a lot of times there's a match, and that's free money. So all of this and little steps, the turtle won the race. Little positive steps make fantastic strides in your financial outcome. So, and then there's the third period of life too, which you may have grandchildren. There's game changers out there. Who knows in the second period? Maybe you were traded. You just never know what's going to come. So
that happens.
Right? It happens. So you just have to always be aware that it's a elastic type of document if you create a planning document. It can't be like your high school yearbook where it goes on the shelf and you never review it. But there's so many facets of planning that really don't have a lot to do about actual investing into stock or ETFs or mutual funds. Some of it does, but so much more of it has to do with protecting our lives and the people we love.
There you go. So it doesn't matter what you have. You always have to plan.
Absolutely.
When should you start?
Well, successful investing, planning, time is an element. So the longer you have, the more success you will have. So I have clients that are in college right now that will come to me and fantastic questions about loans. Now, college loans, there's a lot out there in Twitter, on LinkedIn, articles about how expensive it is for kids today. When I was in college, when you were in college, we could work a summer and pay a semester. Those days are gone. So the ideal is a child should not leave their bachelor education with more debt than what their first year of employment pays them. That's not a lot of money. So when kids come to me, we try to strategize about what's the best way to use the little resource we have today to get the most bang for our buck tomorrow. Because it's hard enough to get out there in the world, right?
Right.
So we don't need a delay a game.
Right, especially the way the job market is.
Exactly, and it's a higher unemployment rate for college grads. So it's something to consider. And planning can never start too soon.
What kind of investments do you deal with?
Well, I'm a comprehensive wealth manager, which means that it is a specific focus on the client. And so it's not so much the product at first, it's about who you are as an investor, understanding your risk profile. What are you tolerant about? The question usually starts with, if your investment went down 10%, how would you feel? What would your reaction be? And it's very hard to assume what that would be, but to start thinking about that, because that's a reality of what really happens in the world. There is volatility in the market. But as far as what we invest in, it's the stock market, and it could be a stock in itself. It could be a mutual fund, which is almost like a shopping cart filled with stocks. It could be an ETF, which is an exchange-traded fund, which is something that it could mirror an index or be sector-focused, but it doesn't have a money manager, if you will, so it's more cost-effective. And then there's annuities, which are self-funded pensions. And then there's UITs, which are closed-end mutual funds. So there are so many different options. The real success is when you understand what it is you're investing in and have a comfort. Because the worst thing that can happen is you lose sleep, and then you lose opportunity. And here's the thing that really is important to me, is that 90% of women at one time or another will have to make a financial decision on their own. And we need to have an education about that. We as women make decisions differently, and that's okay. Because we're always protecting our camp. We want to make the best decision we can to help our family, help either our family that's on the bench or the family that's on the ice. And when we start out in life, we get guidance from, it could be our father, it could be our mother, it could be our uncle, and then later we marry, and there's a support there. But 90% of us are going to be facing this decision-making alone. So wouldn't it be better if little by little you're taking small bites of education along the way, so that when you're already dealing with something dynamic in your life, you're not already starting this whole think tank experience too. So.
Right. And you touched upon 401ks.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, what you kind of feel that's a good
Absolutely.
opportunity for people to engage in.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And a lot of us are aware Social Security is, I don't believe it's going away, but there is a correlation between the fact that our college
dwindling.
it is dwindling.
Yeah.
Our college graduates are not gainfully employed, so there's going to be delay game there, and they're not contributing to the Social Security bucket. Then we have all the drawdown. So that being said, when you have a 401k, you are taking control back. And you're not, and you're taking the power of having a resource for when you do choose to retire. And some of us don't have a choice, by the way. Could be an event that a plant closes, or there's a health issue. So you always have to try to remember that tomorrow may be, and we really don't know what that would look like, but by planning and using a 401k vehicle is fantastic.
That's the way to go. How about an IRA? What do you think of IRAs?
Well, not all of us work for a large company.
Right.
So in the event you don't, you also have the control to plan today for better tomorrow, which is an individual retirement account. And the basic difference is this. 401k, plan sponsored, your employer will sponsor it, pre-tax dollars go in. Fantastic. Because it reduces your net as far as your income. Perfect. An IRA, there's more limitations to it. You can't put in as much, and your adjusted gross income, the limits are lower. So, and you can only contribute, if you're under age 49, $5,500 a year. And that goes up a clip a bit every year. If you're over 50, you can contribute $6,500 a year. And you can contribute far more into a 401k. So that's the benefit of that.
Which people, and is the point of that as you get to your retirement age to draw
Right.
small increments?
Exactly. The other thing, too, is that there's a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs exist. And the beauty of a Roth IRA is that when you're retired, not only does that grow tax deferred just like any other IRA, but you have the opportunity for that to take the distribution without having a taxable event to you, which is very powerful, because what we're always trying to balance is our taxable event when we're retired, correct?
Right.
So if we're taking income from an annuity, we're taking income from Social Security, we have a certain income level. Well, what if we need a new roof, or I need a new car, or if I have to take a lump sum distribution and that pushes me to a new tax bracket? Well, if I have a Roth vehicle, I can manage that more efficiently. And that's powerful when you're retired.
Maybe give us an example if you were to sit down with somebody
Yes.
to talk about establishing a financial plan.
Oh,
I mean, that's,
sure.
say a college student, or whatever,
Yeah.
just really the process, and
Okay.
I'm sure it differs person to person, but just
Exactly.
to give maybe somebody that you've worked with.
Sure.
Kind of,
Sure, the initial meet and greet, because here's the facts, that you really want to have a rapport with whoever you choose, and that's true of most things. But you're going to meet with this person through the planning process once a month minimum for 6 months, and then you're going to have a quarterly review. So you're going to be exchanging Christmas cards, bare bones minimum. But at the same time, the first question I ask my clients is this: tell me what your first memory of money is. And we talk about that. And if you think about that for a moment, what is your first memory of money? And for everyone, it's different. And then when I deal with husband and wife teams, it's who would like to go first? And the person that jumps at me first goes second, because you want to find out who has the true voice and who maybe drives the ship. But you have to have equal footing when you're planning, especially with a team. And then the third question, which we kind of covered, is what keeps you up at night? because I need to know what we need to attack first. And with that, then we talk a little bit more about, what's important about money to you? What do you want to see for your children? Why are you doing this? Because that's what we're going to touch back on. Because it's not easy to stick to a plan. It's not easy to stick to a diet. None of it's easy. But if I know what it is that's driving you, we can review that. And there's a recent client, they're a young couple. It's hard. But at the same time, he said, I want to do this for my daughter. And we talk about his daughter, and you bring it back to the center. And that's powerful. But it's powerful about everything you do. It's goal-centered. So in the first appointment, we're going to be talking about really what is the goal and what can I help you with. And once we establish that, then we start focusing on how to get there. And lastly, we start focusing on the tools and the vehicles we're going to use in order to do so. And that's really it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Simple.
Yes.
Keep it simple.
Absolutely.
What's the number one thing that keeps people up at night that you've experienced that they tell you, would you say?
Well, I find that there's two fears out there. One, running out of money before I take my last breath. And how am I ever going to educate my children and help them? Because the theory is we can give as many fish to our children, but if we don't teach them how to fish, we're not going to be on this planet forever as a parent, but they're going to be left behind. And what tools and what opportunities do we need to afford to them so that they're going to be okay? And so those are the really two big factors there.
Have you sat down with families with their children?
Yes.
I think that's
yes. I actually have had conversations with second generation, third generation, because it's actually easier. Because when you hear it from the mommy or the daddy, it's your mom and dad. And we're telling you a lot. But if you hear it from somebody who is the family advisor and mom and dad trust them, you're hearing it from almost like I know growing up. If I heard something from my Auntie Sheila, that was it. That was done. Well, that in turn is you're trying to communicate a different perspective, and coming from a place of just no emotion. This is the real deal here. It's heard differently, and there's a different application. So it could be powerful.
Right. But I mean, a lot of people don't use a financial planner.
Exactly. There are people out there that don't want a trusted advisor, and that's okay because that's just the